Feminism isn't new. And there's certainly been at least 3 historical waves of feminism. Feminism as a concept, as a term, is really actually a range of social movements, political movements, ideologies that all inherently aim to establish diverse women and girls have the same opportunities in life that are available to boys and men. But it's not about hating men. There are radical forms of feminism that really do feel that to have that equality, we need to fully tip the balance in the complete opposite way. So there's a lot of flavors of feminism, and I think that gets lost in the social media. So I think it can be an intellectual commitment, but it also is inherently a political commitment or movement to seek that justice and to end all forms of sexism.
Welcome to Season 2 of Backyards with Bolt, where we focus on topics such as sexism, victim blaming, and gender stereotypes. Sexism is a prevalent issue in school systems and workplaces that unfortunately nurture unnecessary weeds from a young age.
Weaker, they are smaller, they are less intelligent, and they must earn less. That's all.
I walked back out, and there were reporters in the front of the Capitol. And in front of reporters, Representative Yoho called me, and I quote, a f***ing bitch.
Today, we have Dr. Conklin, an assistant professor in the Faculty of Pharmaceutical Sciences, here to talk to us about sexism within our school system and how it can be tackled.
We all have unconscious bias. We've all been socialized to believe these things that are sexist, ultimately. So education is fundamental. Clearly, the content of education is important to have that not reproduce and recreate sexist stereotypes and beliefs and norms. Equally, school policy is important. I think that's part of our structure, and that sort of sets the tone and the framework. And that could be not only at the school level, but even a classroom policy around non-discrimination on the basis of sex. I mean, schools at all levels have a role in fostering, a more conscious society through the curriculum, through the actual content of information and knowledge that is delivered to the next generation and is training our capacity, our human capacity in this country, right? And history is an example of that, right? History as a course. And if you think about STEM, women in STEM, right? We think about the history of science. Rarely do we have a female scientist that is thought to be so prominent as to warrant a piece of a history textbook. And that's usually Marie Curie, right? We all know about Marie Curie. We don't really know about many other women scientists. We need to give equal time and space in our textbooks, in our social history, our dialogue for women as much as men who have made major accomplishments. They've been not part of history, and I guess that's sort of even inherent in the name, history, rather than her story. And I would say certainly there is a lot of sexism in secondary and tertiary education and higher education system. And in fact, I'd say probably the sexism really is almost outside the classroom. It's beyond that more, kind of close-knit kind of scenario. I'd say it's most visible in terms of the types of roles that women and men, faculty or staff have in the institution or are expected to have or are asked to have. Women are rarely in senior leadership positions. That's because the system is sexist, the system is rigged. And a perfect example of that is publication bias. Some research has suggested that when a trainee, a student, a graduate student, is a co-author on a paper that is coming from the lab of a male professor, they are more likely to get published in a high-impact journal, and they're more likely to, get cited, versus a trainee that is coming from a lab of a female faculty. just because of the name of that last author and the presumed gender based on that name. And why publication bias matters at the level of, say, a student or a trainee is that I'm sure you've heard the expression publish or perish. I hate that expression, but that is the metric of performance of academics is, in order to get grants, you get grants based on your track record. And your track record is your publications. And not just that you have them, but that you have them in high impact journals that get cited and that are visible. So if that is the metric, and we know then that female trainees are less likely to get those and achieve that because of whether or not their PI is male or female, how is it fair then for professors to be judged on their publication record? And that is what then gets them to the next stage and the next stage. So, a master's student, PhD student gets their postdoc position because they've published. That publication list gets you the grants that then get you the graduate students, that get you the publications, that get you the grants, that get you the tenure, that get you that professor, that chair, that dean level. So it's no wonder that we don't have females in senior leadership positions if the entire system is dependent on this publication trail that we now know is sexist. I think the Me Too movement has opened up a conversation. It's opened up a conversation in an elitist type of environment in the Hollywood context, but I think it's a start. It's a start, but feminism isn't new. It's been around for a while, and I don't know what my grandmothers would think. I don't know if they'd feel that we have made progress. I really don't know. I try not to think about it too much because it does get me down. But these conversations are helpful, and the fact that I'm in a position where I can train the next generation and I can help build that capacity. And I'm going to do that by favoring, women students, and especially women students from ethnic minority backgrounds and passing on some of the privilege I've had.